Judge not, lest ye be judged. Hello, everybody. Hope you're all having a fabulous day as I welcome you to my 10th episode of my devotion series, Just Jesus, where I've been discussing Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. Now, I think that today's devotion might be a little rough because it's all about judgment. Judgment. Or rather, not judging. Wait, what? Probably one of the most quoted Bible verses that we have today, even by non-Christians, comes to us from Matthew 7, verses 1 through 6 of the Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus instructs people to judge not, lest they be judged. It's like the unbeliever's favorite Bible verse. And it seems like the sentiment that often gets communicated when people use this verse is like a cop-out for confrontation. Because I've seen people who I know have strong opinions on good and bad behavior, and I've seen them often succumb to social pressure and be like, well, I think this or that is wrong, but I'm not the judge. Or, well, I certainly wouldn't do that, but who am I to judge? It's like a lot of people use this verse as some sort of social shield or some blanket excuse not to offend anyone or to avoid getting caught up in a possible negative confrontation. But that's not what Jesus was saying or how this verse is to be used. Because we make judgment calls all the time, don't we? You shouldn't cheat on your wife. You should take care of your children. You shouldn't litter. You shouldn't lie. You shouldn't root for the New England Patriots. I'm just kidding. I could care less about that. So when your brother comes to you and says, hey, I'm thinking about leaving my wife and kids for my secretary, you should have an answer for that. You should be able to judge whether such a thing like adultery is right or wrong. You don't say, hey man, you do you. You do what you think is right because it's not for me to judge. Are you kidding me? As Christians, we're supposed to make judgment calls about sin and bad behavior. We're allowed to say that it's wrong to go around kicking babies and dogs. We're allowed to say that it's wrong to steal ice cream from little kids. We're allowed to say that viewing pornography and cheating on your wife and kids is harmful to your soul. In fact, we're obligated to. Paul says in 1 Corinthians that we will one day judge angels. In fact, in chapter 5, Paul got upset with the Corinthian church because they didn't rightly judge the sinful behavior of one of their sexually immoral brothers. Because it's virtually impossible to live the Christian life without discerning between what is good and godly behavior and what is bad and sinful behavior. We can't just be Switzerland about everything. So what did Jesus mean? Judge not, lest ye be judged? Well, let's look at the whole thing for a second, shall we? In Matthew 7, 1 through 6, Jesus tells the crowd, judge not that you be not judged. For with the judgment that you pronounce, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. And then he immediately goes on to say, why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye while there's a log in your own eye? You hypocrite! First take the log out of your own eye, then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. So not to be Mr. Obvious here, but Jesus is clearly talking about hypocrisy. He's not saying don't judge in general because no one can live that way. Because when my children grow up to be rebellious teenagers, I'm not going to say, it's okay, you just do you. No, I'm going to say, you're my child. I've raised you better than this, and I care about you. Therefore, I have some general expectations about what I expect of your behavior. So Jesus isn't saying not to pass judgment on anything. Instead, he's saying that you better practice what you preach because others are going to judge you to the extent that you judge them. Because if you're acting all high and mighty and dispensing godly advice while at the same time doing the exact same things as those that you're condemning, then there's a flaw in your correction strategy. You need to start working on you before you start going around fixing everybody else. You need to take that log out of your own eye before you casually start nitpicking everybody else's flaws. Because if you don't, things are going to get bad for you. He says, do not give to dogs what is holy, and do not throw your pearls before pigs, lest they trample them underfoot all over your holy advice and turn around to attack you. Ouch. He's saying that when you start dispensing holy advice or condemning people or start judging everyone around you, both Christians and non-Christians, by the exact same measure, you're really opening up yourself to be attacked. So you better have your nose clean. So we can't have the exact same expectations of everybody. It's not our job to hold the secular world accountable to Christian standards because that doesn't go too well. We have a hard enough time just holding the church accountable. So the important takeaway from Jesus' teaching isn't don't judge in general. It's really don't be a hypocrite. Don't go around condemning others for the same kind of behavior that you yourself are involved in. In Luke's gospel, he records Jesus saying it like this in chapter 6. He says, "Judge not, and you will not be judged. If you condemn not, then you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you." And this makes it even more clear that Jesus' statement about judging and being judged has a lot more to do with how people respond to condemnation than it does about how God is going to condemn judgmental people. So the next time someone gets offended and quotes the most popular verse in the Bible to you, "Judge not, lest you be judged," consider how you respond. Don't be a hypocrite. Consider your own behavior first and know who you're talking to. Because only then will we be able to see clearly, judge rightly, and call others to repentance. Anyway, I hope this has helped you today. As always, I'm Travis Taylor, and that's Just Jesus.